You want some of that?
Yeah.
So I've been thinking,
Yeah.
about like wealth inequality and stuff, yeah. And like most of the problems right now boil down to the rich are, just hoarding all of the wealth, and there's nothing for anyone else.
Yeah.
And we've had a few ideas that might work for that, but I think might have finally, gamified the whole situation.
Yeah.
What if, we put it on one of those like rolling counters, yeah?
Yeah.
But he's only got like 7, 8 digits on it, yeah?
Okay, yeah.
And then they get up to like 99 million pounds, dollars, euros, I guess. And then it just rolls over back to zero. And at that point, they've got no money.
Oh.
And obviously no way of acquiring more money because they've got no money. And then, they'll have to start, from scratch. If they claim that it is as easy as they say, we're not going to have to worry about multi-billionaires. In fact, we're not even going to have to worry about 100 millionaires because I, wildly miscounted how many zeros I'd need.
Yeah. So there's some nines in there.
Yeah, right. So, I reckon that's it. It just ticks over, and then they do like a whole new game plus thing, They prestiged.
I mean, I like the idea. It would require getting them to agree to that system. I think that's going to be a hard sell.
Oh, we'll just, bury it in a EULA somewhere, and, like everyone else, they won't have read it.
Ah, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Eyre's Magnet Dale. And welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types, have a silly little catch-up and talk about all the media we've consumed in the week and do a little silly time.
We're on the freshly repaired couch.
We are! We no longer need several cushions underneath us for it to be a functional couch.
Indeed.
Look at that. How are you doing today?
Feeling accomplished for having repaired a sofa.
You did! You repaired a sofa. It's more it's more firm than it was before.
It's more firm. It's got more seat and less slump.
You've brought some life back into a very cheap charity shop sofa.
Indeed, it'll be good for at least another couple of years now.
Heck yeah.
I've nailed some webbing to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Well, we played some things.
We
I
have
imagine.
played some things.
We should probably talk about those.
Yeah.
I think you should start because I think you've got all the big news.
I mean, I've really been playing one thing this week. I've been playing Hades 2. This is the thing I can talk about that I've been playing. I've been playing other stuff, but I can talk about Hades 2. And that game had a little technical test, maybe a week and a half, like 10 days before we record this.
Yes.
Where they were like, hey, play the first area with some limits, and you can't go past the first area, and you can only get that far a limited number of times. Have a little look at it. And I got very excited about what I played of Hades 2. And then like a week later, hey, surprise, Hades 2's in early access starting today. And we've talked about it. The original Hades, top-down action roguelike, where you're trying to sort of fight your way through from the underworld up to the surface, playing as the son of Hades, Zagreus, trying to find your mother up on the Earth's surface. This is... Okay, so my opinion of this when I played it in the technical test was very positive, but it was, this is more Hades, and that's good. It feels very familiar, there's a few things to make it feel distinct and different, but it's, fundamentally this is another Hades.
Yeah.
And now I'm playing the early access version and going, my god, there's a lot of Hades in here, and a lot more things that feel different than I was prepared for. So, one of the things is the first Hades came out in early access as well, and they did this model, and used it as an excuse to basically add a lot of content to that game over time.
Right.
One of the better examples I've seen of a game doing early access right. But when it first released in early access, it was like, you had access to, I think, the first 2 zones. You couldn't do, like, a complete run all the way to trying to have a fight with Hades.
Right.
This seems to be considerably more feature complete upon starting early access.
Right.
To the point where I am slightly blown away by the amount of content in it. Because I was playing this on stream last night, and characters started hinting at, like, the idea there might be a second Hades worth of Hades in this. And I foolishly went, oh, that thing in the notes about early access that says they're going to add an additional area at some point, maybe like toward the end of this year. Maybe that's what it is. Like maybe toward the end of this year they'll add a second Hades into this Hades. Nope, it's already there. There's already 2 Hadeses in this Hades, it seems.
So it might be a secret third Hades still to come.
At this point, I don't know what to expect, because it's kind of blowing my expectations out of the water. So, much like the original Hades, you've got this sort of little hub world where you can do permanent upgrades for your character and unlock new weapons and trinkets and talk to characters and whatnot. And that whole system is similarly in place. There's a lot of new things to interact with. One of my favourites is a little farming system. I've got a little garden going, making all sorts of little plants I can use for upgrades, which feeds into one of the other new systems. There are craftable non-weapon tools you can take with you on runs, like a shovel, a fishing rod, a pickaxe, and you can only take one of them with you on a run. So when you're going on a run, you have to decide what kind of resources I'm trying to collect right now. Like, that's going to help me to whatever that next thing I want to craft is. And I kind of like it as a system. It forces me to be, like, not just grabbing everything and hoping it's whatever I need. It's making me focus runs on, this is a run where I really need to pay attention to soil patches because I'm trying to find new seeds to get new plants or whatever. And, like, not getting quite so choice paralysis over the sheer number of upgradey things I could be doing at once. Lots of new weapons. There was a couple of weapons that were in the technical test, which was like a sort of spear and a pair of daggers. Several new weapons I've already seen, without going into specifics on too many of them. One of them that I've been really having fun with today is like a pair of magic wands that do... you can sort of throw casts of magic pretty quickly from a ranged distance, or you can do a charged attack where sort of orbs of magic float around you and create a sort of defensive barrier that will do damage to enemies if they hit it.
And is that using your mana, or is that just specific to that weapon type?
So it's specific to that weapon type, but you can use up some of your magic meter to have more of those things floating around you, to have like a bigger defensive perimeter. But yes, as mentioned when we talked about this, I think we talked about the technical test last week, there is now a magic meter, and you are heavily encouraged to be using those magic spells like very, very, very constantly, because your magic meter completely refills up to full at the start of when you go through a room to a new battle. There's a lot of things you can do to make it like refill gradually over time, and to speed that process up. It's very much encouraging you to spam these more powerful versions of attacks and sort of essentially have 4 main attacks for your weapon at all times. You've got like regular light, regular heavy, magic using light, magic using heavy, which means that every weapon has like a good amount of utility options available to it, which is nice. I really love a lot of the new character art that wasn't there in the technical test for some of the characters. There's just some really nice, diverse design choices that have been made. One of the characters is has Vitiligo. Vitiligo, which very rarely seen in stuff. She's a sort of plus-size, cheery woman with a bowl of hot burning coals in a hat on her head. She's
a fashion choice, I guess, but it is Hades.
She's very lovable. She's very charming. I'm trying to think of some of the other good ones that I've seen. I I am real blown away by how much of this game already is in this game. In where they're like, oh, well, it's, it's early access, keep your expectations in check. I am trying to beat the third boss of one route in this game, knowing there's an entire other route that I am currently trying to unlock. The last thing I need to start exploring the entire other direction I can start playing the game in. So I don't know how far in either direction the game functionally exists right now, but there is a lot of game for your game already.
And it was, 4 or 5 different stages before the end in the original?
I think it was 4. So it was starting area, the sort of grassy one, the flame one, and then Elysium. It was the one where you were just doing a couple of challenge rooms and fighting Hades. So it was 4 in total.
Okay.
Whereas here, it seems like, at the very least, one of those directions is going to be 4, plus another direction going somewhere. And if it's anything like the previous Hades, getting to the end of one of those directions once will be barely the start scratching the surface of what that game is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Hades 2, real impressive. I am pretty enamored with it. It's been a good year for video games. There's been a lot of good fucking video games out so far this year.
So based on plot, where do you feel like you are through the story at the moment?
Barely anywhere.
Okay.
Barely anywhere. So, the original Hades, the whole point was, you were trying to fight your way up to Earth's surface as Zagreus, son of Hades, to meet your mother Persephone. And you would get up to the surface, and I'm assuming it's going to be a similar-ish routine here. You would get up to the surface, briefly meet your mother, have a very short conversation, and then get dragged back down to hell, because you could not exist on the surface.
Attached to a bungee cord.
And each time you got there, the plot would develop a little bit and a little bit. In this, all of the main characters from the first Hades have been captured by Kronos, the Titan of Time, and I'm trying to fight my way down to fight time itself, and possibly have to have a fight with my enthralled family members, maybe, question mark.
The heck?
Or I'm having to fight my way up to Mount Olympus for reasons, and I've not achieved getting down to Kronos yet, let alone tried fighting Kronos. I've barely made it a minute and a half into my up onto the surface journey, because I currently can't breathe going that way, which is a problem. And I have no idea what the cycle to this game is, to this narrative is going to be. But yeah, it plays great. It feels distinctly different from the first,
but still good and smooth.
But still very Hades. Plays great on the Steam Deck.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those games for a little bit where anytime I'm not playing Hades, at least 15% of my brain is gonna be thinking about playing Hades. I'm talking about Hades right now, and a portion of my brain is yeah, but I could instead be playing Hades. That's where I'm at with it, and I expect that, 100 plus hours into that game, I'll be like, oh yeah, it's starting to get the hang of it now, you see.
Yeah.
Hades 2 is good. What about you? What you been playing?
Well, I've also been playing a hack and slash game with a 2 in the title.
You have?
I played some Cat Quest 2.
Yeah!
It was I guess at the time of recording, it was the free game on Epic last week, so if you're listening to the early access version of the show, then you will perhaps have a chance to still nab it if you haven't already. This is a game of... Well, the first one was certainly a game of a cat who has to, I think, reclaim kingdom or try and take over the kingdom or something.
Yeah.
It's an adorable little lightweight, not too heavy hack and slash game where you play a cat and you pick up armor and weapons and things. Picking up duplicates of stuff will just level up your existing ones, so you don't have to worry about multiples of different armor. And I think that's a really nice way of handling that and streamlining the whole concept of leveling up your equipment.
It turns duplicates from a thing you would not want to see into an actively exciting thing to get.
Yeah.
Which is good.
You don't need to worry about, okay, well, now I've got to go back and I've got to sell this in order to get the money, and then I upgrade the one that I am upgrading. It's a nice streamline on that, and it's pretty, like, rules light. You have, like, a dodge roll, you've got an attack, and you've got a magic button, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
The big change in Cat Quest 2 is there's now two of you. If you're playing in solo, you can hot swap between the two, a cat and a dog. They have different magic powers. You can spec them slightly differently by changing what equipment or what weapons and armor they've got. But ultimately, it is sort of more of the same puns about cat things in the map.
Yeah.
The world map looks like a sort of cute storybook map that's got like the names of the places written on it. So as you're running past, it'll be like, here's the capital city. Or the capital kitty, I think would be more appropriate. But yeah, it's fun and adorable and kind of challenging, and it's got a cute little story, and I'm enjoying it. And yeah, it's nice to be playing more Cat Quest. I think it was one of the first things I ever reviewed. And, it's nice to be trying it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is my thing with the 2 in it. What about you? What else have you played?
Stuff we can talk about that we've played. We played some board games together.
We did. We played Skyrise.
Yeah.
We've got the fancy collector's edition, I think it's called, with 3D modelled buildings, and they've all got a lovely little wash on them. The map itself is on these large 3D things that look like motors and fans and wings and things, because this is about a floating city in the sky, and that'll come to something we listen to later. You can probably guess what that was.
Yeah.
You are basically, from a central island, you are placing down these buildings. Small buildings will have small numbers on them, bigger buildings would have bigger numbers on. Each player will have a set of buildings. I think it's 3 small, 3 medium, and 2 large at the start of the game. And then they'll each have progressively high numbers on them. That I'm not sure how they picked what order the numbers went in, but so far we've both played with the same faction, 3 or 4 times now, I think?
Yeah.
And it seems like they've done a really good job of, you're going to have some numbers slightly higher than another person, and somebody else is going to have some slightly lower than you. But ultimately, you have
a similar amount of benefit over each other.
And the idea is that you put down a building either adjacent to a previous building or from somewhere on the central island, which is just a tiny little space. And then the next person is going either past, you can have that building, you can put it where it is, you can claim the little disc that's on that neighbourhood, or they can put down a building that has a higher number. And then you just string along numbers from there until somebody eventually either passes or has no ability to go higher than that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's one of those games where like your point scoring metric is landing on specific districts that you're aiming for specific places that might be the color of region you want because you get points for those, or it's got a token on it that you want that's going to help with point scoring. Like, you're not going, I want that brown region with a green token on it. Let's get into a bidding war back and forth over that one space.
No.
What you are doing is someone will bid on one space, then you outbid them on a space next to that, and then they outbid you on a space next to that. So you have to do a lot of maths in your head about, if I start the bidding here, would alternating turns, could that potentially get it so on my turn it would be in place for me to get the one I want?
Yes.
How can I, manipulate the bidding so that is the case? Things like, it's open information what bidding values the other player has. So trying to perhaps, goad them into using the only building that outbids all of yours.
Yes.
So that you can go, cool, I'm unobstructed for a moment. I can do single bid that wins, and one by one for a second chip your way towards where you're trying to get.
Yes, because in events where there isn't somewhere else to go from that initial bidding place, like it is the only spot that's sort of surrounded by other buildings that have already gone down, or in a little dead leg somewhere on the map, then you can sort of specifically go, I am having this thing here.
Yeah, there are ways to try and make it so that you have uncontested ability to win bids when you need to for a second, and that won't last for long, but you sort of maneuver that to try and line up with when you're going to try and grab those things that you desperately need.
Yeah.
It's an interesting little mind game / trying to manipulate the other player's actions so you can get where you need to be.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. It doesn't take super long to play. I think we've played like average about 45 minutes, including setup. We're certainly getting more into the sort of deep mind games and strategy and manipulating each other around the way we bid or the way we position ourselves, and I think that's been really interesting to discover. We've only played it at 2 so far, but I would be fascinated to see what it's like in 3 and 4 player. Like, because at that point you have a larger map and you'll have a slightly different distribution of the different districts. I think that would be really interesting. That you also got sort of 2 eras in the game. So you'll initially have a small set of buildings, and then the first person to place down all of their first era buildings starts the second era. At that point, you're scoring based on the who's got the most tall buildings on each island. So you'll get 5 points for each of those, and then you'll have 2 other cards which will be randomized. There's 5 different scoring things, and it might be like have 3 of your buildings around the same lake, or have a building at either end of the bridges, basically where the different map pieces connect. There are the little bridges there. So yeah, there's lots of different ways of point scoring. You're also, in the second half, you've got new buildings. You'll get like a good mix of the same buildings. If you didn't manage to get all your buildings out in the first half, you're going to have a bit more opportunity to do stuff, but maybe they won't necessarily be the best buildings. But there are sort of some interesting strategies to the way you can move around with that. Then the first person out at the end of the second era gets the key to the city, which is worth 10 points.
But the other person is, however many pieces they have left, there's no one to challenge for them putting them where they want now.
Yeah, in 2-player, that is certainly the case.
Yes, at least in 2-player.
Yeah, so you can potentially just end up with I have all the time in the world to decide exactly where it is I'm going to go with my few remaining buildings, and that's really interesting. There's also this concept of wonders. At the start of the second era, you pick what your wonder is going to do. It might be a particular way of scoring, it might act in a specific way, it might give you something immediately. It might make one of the usual scoring criteria that only happens at the end of the era happen immediately, and then again at the end of the era, and basically shut down a bid at any time in the second half by just going, as long as somebody else has put something down, you can go, I'm putting my wonder down, that's it, we're locking this off, I now have that thing. That's been pretty fascinating, because some of those are very, try and put this near other things, or near nothing else. Or you'll get points for how many of your buildings you have or haven't already put out, or try and get it specifically on a certain island. And that's been by virtue of the fact that in 2-player you've got 5 of those wonder choices to make, and you get 2 wonder buildings. But in 3 and 4-player, you will only get 3 cards dealt out to you and 1 wonder to place.
Yeah.
So that is a really fascinating way of going, okay, I can see roughly where I'm positioned. These are the 3 cards I got at the start of the game. I have been able to manipulate things a little bit already, but now I've got to sort of specifically opt for what my wonder is going to do. And there's a whole other aspect to that as well, because whoever plays the wonder card with the lowest number on it is going to be the first player. So maybe it's more important to you to be first player in the round, so you will pick the lowest possible value card. But it's interesting having your hidden ideas, your sort of wonder strategies, all of those are hidden in the first era and then sort of revealed in the second. But also there's an awful lot to think about and strategize around, and I think it's deceptively simple, but I think you could get really deep, because it goes from being I'll sort of put this down, this sort of matches my thing, this matches my thing, and then all of a sudden, quite early on in the second era, it suddenly becomes really crunchy.
But because it is rules light, it can be strategy heavy, because you have the ability to think ahead, but there is a limit to how far you can think ahead, because ultimately you are reliant on someone else's decisions. which means you have to make a series of complicated moment-to-moment choices based on where your opponent's just gone, while having a long-term game plan in mind, and that's a nice mix.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, we certainly liked it enough that after our first learning game, we were like, okay, let's dive in and play a proper game immediately. We then played it again on Sunday, and really looking forward to playing it more and introducing more people to it. And that's Skyrise by Roxley Games.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you played anything else?
There's not really much else I've played by myself that I can talk about at the moment this week. Have you played anything else, or have we played anything else together?
I played one other thing that we can talk about. I played SteamWorld Dig, the first one.
Ooh!
Apparently I had it already, which was awkward because I was like, hang on, I played SteamWorld Dig a while ago.
Yeah.
I played through SteamWorld Dig 2 a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely went through this in the wrong order because you can... It feels a huge difference between the two games.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm trying it out. I can see where all of SteamWorld Dig came to, but it is a bit of a difficult step back.
This is one of the ones where you played the sequel with a lot of quality of life changes first, and now you're having to take away the quality of life changes to play the first one.
Yeah, it's not just quality of life. Some of it's like just the depth, and some of it's the variety, or even just the scale of it. But ultimately, I am enjoying it, and I think it's very cool. And it's nice to sort of see where that other game came from. And I've been enjoying it so far. I'm not sure how long this story is or what else is going to come from it, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's a fun little game about digging in mines. It's got a little bit of the old, was it Dig Dug, with the dig under rock and rock fall down, so be careful, don't let rock fall on your head. Going further down in the mine, getting your minerals and stuff, and then going back, selling it for upgraded equipment, and also slowly doing like challenge caves off to one side to get more resources, more ways of making money, more ultimately getting sort of cool power-ups and things. And yeah, it's a cute little story with cute little robot miners and frontiers folk. It's a cute little art style. I quite like the idea of all these little robot people. What is the story? How is this civilization of robots do? Mm-hmm. It's very cute, and enjoying that so far. Well, I think that's everything we played.
Well then, time for this.
Meow. I'm stronger than you and more brave.
Oh, I've got bigger claws.
I got bigger teeth.
I'm viciouser.
I'm viciousr. I'd eat a whole dog. Hide. It's the cat. Meow.
He's gone.
Meow. The cat's gone. Yeah.
Okay.
That one can drink out of a new bowl that is different to the one that they usually drink of that was in a different place that their human bought and put in a different place. It makes a buzzy sound.
Oh, that's a proper hard cat.
Bravest of cats.
That's bravest cat.
Are they gone now? I could probably beat them up. They didn't hear that, right?
No.
I say it's a bloody disgrace.
Bloody disgrace.
Have you seen what happened?
I've seen. We, the Tories, have absolutely been decimated at the polls.
Decimated at the polls. Decimated at the polls is disgusting. I mean, what more could we do? I mean, were we too soft on migrants?
Well, perhaps we were too soft on trans people.
Well, maybe we weren't taking enough of the public's money and just putting it into our own pockets.
Maybe we just, generally speaking, weren't being greedy enough.
Well, I think maybe we
were thinking too much about other people and not enough about our own
self-interest. Exactly, because if let's be honest, Labour are trying to offer exactly the same thing as us right at the moment, right?
Yes. You know, what if we tried an old-fashioned system?
Oh, like an old-fashioned system, yes.
Where hospitals are properly staffed and British people owned British utilities and services.
British people owning British services.
Yes, and what if we want to conserve and stick to old-fashioned values.
No, old-fashioned values.
Like properly funded hospitals and publicly owned utility services.
Someone called security. We've got a bloody socialist in here. Give him a jolly good wallop with that empty champagne there, Wallace. You give him what for?
Ah!
Bloody right.
Really thought I'd get you that time.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
We put some things in our eyes together.
Oh, we sure did.
We sure did. Do we want to start with the big one?
The big one? You want to start with the big one? Okay.
No, that's the question. Should we or not? I don't know.
I was going to go through them in order, but
okay, we can do them in order.
So we watched Iwájú together. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly,
We did,
but I hope
yeah.
so. This is a series. I think it was on Disney Plus.
I believe so.
That's not why we watched it. About. So it's set in Lagos.
Yeah.
It's got that sort of Afrofuturist vibe. There's flying cars.
Yeah.
It's about a person who is trying to invent a
robot lizard.
A robot lizard security device because there's been like a rash of abductions.
Yeah, it's basically, can I have this robot lizard that will transform and defend my child should the need arise?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, quite early on we get from the daughter, who ends up with the sort of pet lizard, that she is curious and precocious and wants to, understand, like, her history, because her dad talks about the fact that he came from the mainland, and that, like, she's forbidden to go there, but he's constantly, like, popping over there on business and going away on business, and it seems like she spends a lot of time either at home on her own or talking to the kid who does the gardening.
But she's not supposed to talk to the kid.
She's not really supposed to talk to the kid who does.
He's supposed to be doing the gardening. He's not meant to be talking to you.
Yeah. And also like an array of robots who can cook and clean and trim the hedges and stuff.
It uses the technology level to create like a particularly stark class divide.
Yes.
That is very clearly core to the setting. She is being brought up with a dad who is keeping her very separated from other elements of society other than the high-tech space that he works and lives in.
Yeah, it has got kind of the like Princess in the Tower vibes.
Yes,
there's a electric laser security fence around the front of the house.
Yeah.
The concept that she's going to have this protection lizard. Yeah. But he is very much all about rules and the way things have to be done, and like not talking to the help.
Yes.
That's although like it seems to be that like the cook for the household does cook for the kid who does the gardening. He's not supposed to eat at the same table as the daughter.
I got the impression he wasn't. They weren't even supposed to have cooked for him.
Okay.
The impression I got was that the child asked, "Can you cook something for him?" and went and did it because requested, but made something far worse.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a story about a young girl who very clearly is very curious about the world, wants to be seen as having grown up, wants to be able to be adventurous, and wants to, clearly has not inherited quite the same view of class divide as her father, trying to push against those boundaries of wanting to see more of the world, wanting to be independent, wanting to do her own thing, and not understanding why she can't be friends with this child who is around her home.
Yeah, because despite all of her naivety and just, where she has been for most of her life, when she does get a little bit of freedom, she is all about, well, I have food, and those people don't have food, so I'm going to give those kids some food, and here is a person who's begging for money, so I'm going to give them some money, because I've got some of that. Clearly she has some idea of, hey, I can help other people, and I would like to do that. And And then there's this, like, I really struggled with the whole class divide stuff in this.
It's clearly there for a reason, but it is hard to watch.
Yeah. Like, I don't know enough if this is trying to reflect something about current day Lagos, but it was quite hard to watch. Like, yes, the bad guys are bad guys because they're kidnapping people, but also like, and also like the money lending aspect. But like, it does feel like these are people who are banded together and looking after each other a lot. Certain, not your Kingpin character, certainly.
Look, I'm not saying they were good people, but their stated aim of, some of these people have way more money than they know what to do with, and that is a moral evil that they have that much money, that they are not recirculating into society or doing anything positive for other people with, and that perhaps they need to learn a lesson about the evils of, unfettered capitalist greed. I don't necessarily disagree with that. There's a point in this show where, like, the villain is giving this speech, and I'm like, the dad does need to learn a lesson about class divide, though.
He does.
Like,
I mean, maybe we shouldn't have abducted his kid, but
no, maybe that's not like the most ethical thing to have done. But like, if you did convince that dad to hand over every single penny he has, maybe he'd have some fucking empathy for the kid that does the gardening and let his kid talk to that kid.
Yeah.
Maybe he does need to learn a lesson that the show never really forces him to learn.
Yeah. I mean, spoilers, but yes, then like it's beautiful. So it's beautifully animated. It's got some like really fascinating ideas. The art style is really nice.
Wonderful
and
character
the
designs.
character designs are lovely. The characters are they're so full of life. Like it feels like classic Disney like characters that were all like very individual, and they had a huge amount of personality in them. And then the story is complex, and I like that, but I did find it a bit challenging. I wanted like more things to be said or done or resolved.
It's a complicated one because I don't know what age range this show is targeting, because it is tackling some complex ideas for pretty complex ideas if they're aiming at children, but not necessarily in the kind of depth that's going to appeal to the adults that might understand the complexity of what's going on. It's in a weird middle ground.
Maybe we need a My First Class Warfare that you sit down and you watch with your kids. But, it's fascinating. I would love to see more from the studio.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's entirely in-house Disney stuff.
Yep. I liked a lot of the voice acting choices. In terms of, like, the ways that things were written and the range of different kind of voices that got to be in the voice cast. Very interesting show, even if it has that problem that, like, some of the more recent Marvel TV shows had, where I keep going,
Who am I supposed to be rooting
I'm kind of siding for the villain, though.
Yeah.
While watching it, I had that moment of this is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I'm cheering. I'm a little bit cheering for the quote unquote terrorists that want, nations without borders. And I'm like, is that a bad thing to want, though?
What if we did have more equal distribution and people didn't have to rely on handouts from rich people who are doing a bit of tourism in the district of poor people.
Interesting for what it was.
Absolutely, I definitely think people should watch it, and I hope more people watch it, because I would hate for it to end up in the same situation as Kizazimoto, which was, it didn't get nearly enough advertising, it wasn't nearly even talked about enough, and so many people I've encountered talking about like cool animation that's happened in the last couple of years haven't even heard of that show.
Oh god, yeah. With it's like the one episode with the mech racing that looked like something from Studio Trigger. Like this, I hope this doesn't end up in that no one knows it exists realm.
Yeah, it's it is seemingly that whole thing though of Disney got together a thing. We decided to do something with largely African creators, and then we just didn't advertise it, didn't put anything more to it. It feels like that whole girls can't sell video games. Because we don't put any money behind advertising them. Thing from the 90s, 2000s. So hopefully we've talked about it, people will hear about it, and maybe go look it up. But that was Iwájú.
Yeah. Should we talk about the other show we binged?
Yeah.
Scavenger's Reign is one of the best shows I've seen in a long fucking time.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
This was one you found via TikTok.
Well, so was the other one. This was two things, I think we were, strapped for things to watch, and I was like, well, we've kind of watched everything drop out. We've sort of very up to date on dropout stuff. Our YouTubes are both, coming up empty. So it's just I'll just go through the things I screenshot from TikTok of things that I should be watching, sort of stuff I saw advertised as, cool animation, and... Yeah. This is a story about a freighter ship which encountered some sort of problem, and that's not made clear immediately in the show. And seemingly a bunch of different escape pods have landed on various parts of this planet, and this planet is filled with the most alien life I have seen in, I think, just about anything.
Yeah, before we get into anything else, this animated show is one of, maybe the best show I've ever seen at having an alien planet that feels like it has consistent ecology, that, makes sense and has, there is a theme to, the cycle of how life exists on this planet, but that is also baffling and weird and, leaves completely unanswered questions and does things that are, beautiful, and I have no idea why that's happening, but I don't need to.
Yeah.
It's just alien, and that's okay.
Yeah, this went from something that maybe I'd have on and sort of see if it was something to have on in the background while I was doing something else. Almost immediately, I was there is so much happening that is weird as fuck that isn't immediately explained. Because, one of the first scenes, they are seemingly trying to contact what remains of the ship.
Yes.
To bring down a rescue vessel that they can then escape the planet from. But it seems like basically their battery is faulty. But the whole first scene is there. Seemingly, at one point they crawl inside some sort of large four-legged, almost elephant-sized creature to get some rocks out of it that you can apparently bang together that produce light.
Yeah.
You just crawl inside this monster, this creature rather, and it's fine with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be in any way harmed.
There was a really good, early symbiotic relationship between a couple of creatures that was, one was basically caused to create light, and in exchange was fed black goop that caused visions, and this was a little symbiosis-y thing that was happening, and it was
so we see this creature that is it looks sort of small and hungry, and it's fed this black goop from this other thing that makes the lights, and then the little green creature wanders off, picks some fruit and feeds it to this weird hypno lizard thing.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the whole species, and the larger some of those creatures grow, the more likely they are to be able to find little other creatures to go and do their business and feed them fruit.
Or the little white bird things that just vanish entirely as soon as they land on those white poles.
But the white poles also seemingly maybe almost calcium, bone-like structures that just grow out of the ground.
Wonderful planet design, and this kind of thing carries the whole way through the show. There is a moment with a life cycle of a plant and a little frog that's amazing.
Beautiful and baffling and fascinating.
Moving in ways I do not understand how to put words to.
It's I need to have a little sob now, but I don't fully understand what just happened.
Yeah,
but whatever
I don't
it was,
know
it was
why,
beautiful.
but I'm feeling something.
Yeah.
And set on this backdrop of this world, you have basically at the start 3 different stories going on of people or groups who got off of this freight ship that whatever had gone wrong with, crashed on the planet, trying to basically get back to the ship in the hopes that they can somehow get home.
Yes.
And
on a planet that is just savage.
Yeah, it is a vicious planet, but not like needlessly so. It is the journey of there is like a couple of people who like landed together and have been trying to create a society together and have at least had each other's backs. There's a person and a robot that is slowly
Filling
changing,
with slime mold.
Yeah, filling with slime mold and maybe becoming more than it was. And one person trapped in a escape pod that can't open the door alone by themselves for a very long time, very emaciated.
Yes.
And their drastically different experiences trying to make the journey back to the ship.
Yes.
And it is beautiful and hopeful and devastating and dramatic. There is so much emotional weight to this story.
Yeah. I put it on, and my plan was to have it as something on in the background.
Yeah.
As I said, fairly quickly realised that just wasn't going to happen.
Agreed.
I think there came a point where it was starting to lull a little bit in the constant background, watch everything, and maybe I missed a few things. I spent half an hour doing some German practice on my phone, and then basically spent all 7 hours just watching the whole thing, and we kept going oh yeah, that's the end of another episode. I mean, we could go to bed, but I need to know what happens
there was
next.
no world in which I wasn't going to binge that entire series in one sitting. It was ridiculous. That story is really, really well filled with good dramatic tension-building cliffhangers that do not feel forced or contrived, but feel like a natural part of this is a proper saga of a journey. And the way that it builds and that the consequences that happen, it is truly wonderful. It is something really special, that show.
Yeah, I again, another thing I would be fascinated to see more from those creators. It's beautiful and fascinating and delightful and mystifying and sad in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then you're constantly going, I don't know if this is something they need to be worried about, but there are other creatures or plants that I have noticed things about, and that's kind of fascinating. And the way you just occasionally there'll just be a weird little life cycle of something happening in the background of other shots, and you're that's not necessarily referred to in any other way.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that defines the world that they land on more than anything else is it feels full of life cycles and life cycles that whether you understand them or not, you can see a clear purpose and a clear line of ecology that is fulfilling purposes. Whether you understand what is driving those things to happen doesn't change the fact that this world is full of these cycles that you are going to have to learn to navigate. It's beautiful. It's got such memorable characters.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a bad character in it. In terms
I think there are bad characters.
Okay, there are characters who are bad, who do bad things, or are bad people. But I don't think there is a character who is not incredibly well written.
Yeah,
even
there's a lot of depth to
the hateable
everybody.
Characters are hateable for all the right reasons.
Yeah. And there's some genuine growth from some characters in very bizarre situations.
Yeah.
I first encountered this as a montage of 3 scenes that are spread out over the course of about an hour of that show.
Yeah.
Of the one character that is with the robot Levi is hey, you're being weird. I want to check, open your access panel in your back. I want to have a look. And the robot's okay, cool. And there's this, slime mold growing across it. And then, the next bit is, okay, I'm just going to need you to power down and I'm going to gonna do some maintenance on you, okay? So, like, powers down robot, starts tearing at this slime mold and stuff, ends up in a situation that is nearly perilous, has to kind of turn robot back on while struggling to move at all. Robot comes back on, manages to save the day and so forth, but also is like, please don't turn me off again unless it's, like, absolutely critical. Like, there is, like, a whole part of me, and I was like, that is a fascinating concept of this robot that is somehow becoming more of a person. By virtue of just being not just what it was programmed to be, and maybe symbiosis is happening with the planet itself. That, like, there was one point where everything was so beautifully and fascinatingly tied together, apart from the humans who had crashed on this planet, that I was wondering is this going to turn out to be like a giant biological supercomputer or something? It's not. It's just a fascinating ecosystem.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I like that for something that was going to be that experimental, they told a complete story.
Yes.
Like, I've since gone and read a few bits about it, and the creators have said, look, we have ideas for places this story could go.
If this never got another season, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
It finished in a way where it felt like it could end there.
Very satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I again would definitely encourage people to look that up, because it is stunning in so many ways.
I want to recommend it in the same way that I was desperate to recommend Severance when we finished it, that it feels truly special of a kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm glad more of this sort of weird, different, not just rehashing the same sort of stories over and over again. Not going too safe.
Yeah.
That more of these things are being made. I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you watched anything else?
The main other thing I've watched is I watched a film. I
Oh, you
watched
did?
a movie film.
A movie film?
I went and saw The Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy, that's that Ken. Who's just Ken?
It's Ryan Reynolds. It's what's his name?
It's Ken.
You called him Ken, and I can't remember his name now. You knocked his name out of my head.
I'm sorry.
Ryan Gosling. I knew he was a Ryan. In my head, I was just like, he's Ken. He's Ken.
just Ken.
Yes. Ryan Gosling stars as a stunt actor who, long story short, things go badly for him as a stunt actor. A stunt goes badly. He gets very badly injured. He gets called back to a movie because the main actor in the movie's gone missing, and as his stunt double, you could maybe find out what's happened to him, because, like, you could look around and not be people will think it's him. It'll be fine. And what unfolds is part rom-com, part searing indictment of the poor treatment of stunt workers in particular, in terms of, like, injury and risk and not being given proper credit, wrapped up in just enough of a fun, dumb comedy action film that, like, the dads who've come along to it aren't gonna feel like they came to see a rom-com. It somehow makes all of those work as a very cohesive thing. It is a really fun comedy rom-com about a relationship between two people who, a traumatic injury at work kind of got in the way of their relationship, but they're going to try and build it back up. Alongside trying to solve this ridiculous, silly mystery while also doing big, stupid stunt scenes, and it all comes together into a beautiful... It feels like it should be more convoluted than it is, but it works really well. Final set piece that was very satisfying. It's a good, fun, dumb rom-com action comedy. And you know what I really liked about it? They use the end credits of the film to show the behind the scenes of the stunt men who are not Ryan Gosling, who did all of Ryan Gosling's stunt scenes, naming them, giving them their moment of spotlight, showing them properly with their face very visibly them and not Ryan Gosling doing the stunts and having their moment of recognition.
Yay.
I'm like, I'm glad this film is practicing what it preaches in terms of proper acknowledgement of stunt performers.
I'd heard that stunt performers were very happy about this film.
Yeah, it is a film that does, like, it spends a lot of its time showing just how much stunt, like, for a film that is like an action rom-com comedy, it spends a lot of time acknowledging that stunt performers are expected to do terrifying, dangerous things that they are probably scared of, that they, being pushed back into work maybe before they're ready to do so.
Might injure them for life.
Yeah, the fucking injury at the start of this film is a, like, you're lucky you're not dead level injury, and he's still pushed to come back and keep doing work.
Yeah.
And the fact that they managed to make that point well, while doing everything else that film is doing, it's very fun. I had a great time watching it. It was a very enjoyable one. It's one of those films where I came out and I was like, I could go back in and watch that again and have a fun time watching it again. Yeah. It was very good.
Yeah.
What about you? You watched anything else?
That's pretty much it for me.
Well then, time for this.
Hey Laura,
Yeah?
we've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, did you make a clone to do all of your chores for you?
Oh, that classic. Yep, always making clones to help do the chores.
And did you find that clone, being a clone of you in every way, struggled to motivate themselves to do the things that you also would have straight...
The fatal flaw with making clones to do the work you don't want to do. The clones don't want to do the work you don't want to do.
Because they're clones.
Because they're clones. It is a common problem.
Well, today's sponsor is clonetivator.lol.net, .net. It's recursion, I think,
I see, I see.
If they're struggling to get motivated, they can help motivate your clone.
Oh!
With just a whole range of programs and plans and just like education ideas and courses and ideas to help them motivated.
They're going to be so productive.
They're going to be so productive. So that's clonetivator.lol.net. Don't sue us if they start using the motivation. Oh, don't! I'm not supposed to read them. If they start. Don't.
I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it. Don't sue us if they use that motivation to organize against you. I might not use this.
We don't have to tell the clones. Although the clone is supposed to be editing this episode.
Fuck.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi.
So, I want more money.
I love that for us.
Right, I want more money.
More.
And I want it now.
I'd love it. I want the money. I want all the money.
Exactly, and it's nearly time for bonuses. And any money we spend on stuff that isn't bonuses is less money for us.
Right.
So, I've been having a look at some of the studios we own.
Right.
And going, which one of these should we maybe just completely and utterly shutter so we can get a bigger bonus?
I like it.
Right.
Okay, most of them?
I mean, yeah, we need to keep some of them because, they make money and that's part of what we get money from.
Right.
But, if they're not making infinity money, we could just close them and have that money, like, today.
I love today money.
Yeah, maybe it's not tomorrow money, but it's today money, and I do like today money.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm not going to spend it, but it's good to know that it's there.
Exactly. So, first up, let me have a look here. What do we got? What about that team that made that small but beloved surprise hit that helped us through a dry release spell?
Yeah, I mean, they've done what we needed them to.
Exactly.
That's it. Game over.
They made a thing. It was beloved. It was needed at a time, and now we don't need them. Out the door.
Plus, we still own the IP.
Exactly.
How about the team we forced to make the game in the genre that they hated and they'd never worked in before, and it didn't sell well at all, and all the they were passionate about a lot of stuff from the thing they had been making before, and then we forced them to do what we wanted, and it wasn't very good.
Got them. They should have been more vocal about the fact they didn't want to do it or that it was going to be bad. They made it even though we told them to, even though they knew it would be bad. That's not what we need. We need people who can suck it up and like making the thing they hate.
And also be good at making the thing
Exactly. They should be good at making the thing they've never made before that they hate, and they should learn to like it. They're out the door. Right. Who else we got? How about this one? Specifically, this one's just like an individual person I want to fire, because I think it'd be funny.
Yeah.
Remember when we almost deleted the entirety of our game by accident because of a misinput server command or something? And that one person had been working from home and had like a backup on their computer and like saved us from losing the whole project.
Yeah, I was down in the IT room and I was like, buttons. Hey, look everyone, doing IT.
Buttons.
And then they were like,
it was
God.
it was hilarious how you almost ruined the game.
Yeah.
But you know that one person who like everyone goes, they're so wonderful. They had a copy at home.
Yeah, they saved the day.
Yeah. I want their salary. Specifically their salary.
Oh, fuck you in particular.
Exactly. Like
you are an evil genius.
I know.
So, what have you put in your ears?
Not a lot. I've been real busy with work stuff. It's mainly been video game soundtracks. I've been listening to a lot of the Hades 1 soundtrack because I had been doing the accessibility preview the other week based on the technical test. And Hades,
something to tide you over.
Exactly. Hades was on my mind. It was my background for work. That game, Supermassive Games, the studio that make Hades, their sound guy, I've forgotten his name. I'm going to look it up while we're talking. He is the secret weapon of that studio. Okay, so the guy's called Darren Korb. Darren Korb is the secret weapon of that studio. His music compositions are fucking incredible, from wistful, soulful, medieval, almost medieval ballads to tracks that are like a really good sort of rock and synth mix for backing to combat, to quiet moments. His work on like the Transistor soundtrack, the Hades soundtrack, Pyre, Bastion, all of them absolutely fucking incredible soundtracks, and Hades 2 so far has not disappointed in that regard.
Excellent.
But yes, I've been delving into the Hades soundtrack while working, and it has been real good. Also on stuff that I recently played, we talked about the first Hellblade a couple of weeks ago. Because I replayed that because the sequel's coming out soon, and because I recently replayed it, it was on my mind, and I listened to some of the Hellblade soundtrack. And again, that has some really good, haunting, very ethereal tracks that are very good out of context. Both of them are very good video game soundtracks. I probably don't need to tell people that, but those have been my listening, really. It's just been Hades and Hellblade. It's been a week of H's. Ha! What about you? What have you been listening to?
Well, I sort of vaguely alluded earlier to the Bioshock Infinite soundtrack, if that's what your guess was for what we listened to while we were playing Skyrise.
Another video game soundtrack.
Yeah. We listened to the Bioshock Infinite soundtrack. Got some lovely close harmonies in that, and some fascinating, like the Steam Calliope remake of Girls Just Want to Have Fun. It's this. There's some beautiful reimaginings of music in that.
Any problems I have with that game's
plot?
The music is not a complaint I have about it. There are some gorgeous reimaginings of modern tracks.
Yeah, and they're really good for listening to while you play a game about a city floating in the clouds.
Yeah.
We also listened to the City Skylines soundtrack,
We did, yeah.
which is just some good background music to have on. But then there's the earworm.
Oh, the one that we were both humming. Like it played once, and then we both hummed it for a couple of days.
It keeps floating up on my TikTok. Someone has apparently discovered the Nowhere King song from Centaur World.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's just something about the melody that's just so slow and swaying, and the lyrics are just deeply sinister.
Yes,
but
yes.
It's a fascinating tune and so easy to get stuck in your head.
Yes, and my god, it took me on a reminder journey of that show's like third act reveal of its main plot.
That sure does go some places, huh?
It sure ends up pretty fucking heartbreaking.
Hush now, hide all you little ones, rush now into the middle of nowhere. Singing and laughter will die. Dreamless sleep follows the Nowhere King. Where his kingdom comes, darkness is nigh. You will bring joy to the Nowhere King when he sees the light leave your eyes.
Just a silly little show about centaurs, that's all it is.
It's about a horse that becomes more cartoony and a kleptomaniac centaur with a tummy hole. It's not more serious. Cartoons are for kids, it's not for serious, surely. But yeah, that's pretty much it, really, listening-wise. It's been more of a play things than listen to things week. And anything that we have been listening to has really been sort of more background to the other things, really. Not been super heavy on that, but we will return and talk about other things in future. But for now,
time for this.
Hello, I'd like to return this day, please.
Sorry?
Well, I'd like to return this day. It was rainy and unpleasant, and I didn't enjoy it.
Okay, well, do you have the receipt?
Well, every day's a gift, you see, and I wasn't given a gift receipt, so...
that's unfortunate. You don't have a receipt, but you'd like to return this day.
Yeah, do you have a nicer day?
Look, if you don't have the receipt, all I can really do is an exchange. I can't do a refund. I can do an exchange.
Can I have a nicer day than... Can I have the day Elon Musk is having, like one of those rich billionaire days?
No, sorry. We can only exchange it for a day of equal or lesser value. So, it could be better in some regard, but you're going to have to find a trade-off so that it's worse in another.
Could I have a day with a bouncy castle at a county fair, but it's raining?
I mean, it was already raining in the day you're exchanging, so it's not really getting much worse. How about this? You got a day bouncy castle.
It could rain heavier, but the bouncy castle. Maybe there's leaves on the bouncy castle.
You step in some dog poo on the way to the bouncy castle.
Well, I don't want to have my shoes on the bouncy castle anyway, so I suppose that's probably fine.
Okay, that seems an equivalent value. We'll get the exchange put through.
Damp mulchy castle, here I come. Oh, I've stood in poo.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to our press conference. Welcome all. So we're here at the live theatre industry. Have heard that high prices are putting people off of attending live performances.
They're just not coming.
That's what I've heard. So apparently musical stage plays all too expensive for people to go to the things they would, otherwise come and go to. So we would like to announce that we are introducing some new tiers of price-accessible seating for our upcoming live event season.
Indeed. Here we have a fold-out chair that's slightly rickety in the lobby of the theatre, but obviously curtained off so the people who can afford a ticket don't actually have to look at you, and you get to watch it on a cheap black and white television that I rescued from my great-grandmother's.
Yes, it's if any of you have ever been late for a musical, it's that screen. You just don't get to go in. You just stay out there for the whole performance.
It's a throbbing cathode ray of 8 inches.
What else have we got? We've got the peer through a window that you have to tiptoe to see through ticket bracket. No matter what your height is, it's going to be just a little awkwardly tall to see through.
The window is adjustable, that's how we do that.
Yeah, exactly. We wouldn't want to make it too easy to see through, because then we'd have to raise the price of the ticket, and this is supposed to be an affordable ticket. You can stand in the wings on the side of the stage, so that every time you're just starting to sort of get into the show, you keep having people push past you, trying not to miss their cue.
Yes, and occasionally you might be asked to move some of the stage props to a different location.
Indeed.
So make sure you're wearing black for that.
Yeah, you might have to help out with the quick change in the back. You will miss portions of the show.
Large portions.
Yes. And the last one, you've got to go up a series of ladders, climb up into the ceiling rafters, and there's a small hole directly above the stage. You can look directly down from above through the small hole and see a top-down view of the top of all the performers' heads, and that is the only perspective you get.
Yes, also the sound quality is appalling from that.
Oh yeah, that roof was not designed for people to be hearing up there.
Not from that position anyway.
No,
It's all about broadcasting out into the theatre, you see. Which also a port to sit in.
Exactly. The reverb is absolutely horrendous, but only £35 a ticket. So honestly, pretty affordable at this
You're
point.
not going to be able to see Hamilton any cheaper from that, I assure you.
Oh, indeed. So, don't let it be said that theatre is pricing people, the common person, out of seeing live performance art.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
All right, Larry.
All right, Barry. How you doing?
Oh, mate, it's, every day's another challenge, but, holding on as best we can and, fighting back where possible.
I'll get you.
You doing all right, mate?
Oh, I'm all right. Just watching the continued spiral of capitalism, purchasing up companies and then selling them off despite, doing great things and not caring about the people involved just so that some corporate bullshit can have some more money.
Yeah, they're buying up all these things, destroying them, sending them off back into the world, saddled with debt.
We saw video games have been seeing a lot of this recently because there was that Embracer that bought up all those studios.
Not embracing anymore, are they?
Not embracing anymore. No, Board Game Division, you have all this debt. Sorry about that. Xbox has just closed like 3 of their studios that had like. Critically beloved video games that they created that are just like, nope, shuttered. It's all, this is how capitalism works generally. It's, but buy up when you need to seem like you're growing to stoke investor confidence. And the second that you need, like, I just want some cash, like, today in my pocket, just fuck all those people that made that thing that made us money. I would like some money today. Now, Exactly. We own the thing you made. You can't keep making it. Sorry about that. Out on the street you go.
Yeah, I mean, we've had it with, obviously, with the whole Embracer thing. We've had endless shit going on with Hasbro and all their other companies. You got your Wizards and all that. Then obviously we had the whole Larian Studio being separated from there. All the people who had worked with Larian Studio and, after the abundance of cash that Baldur's Gate 3 made for them.
I'm of the belief, if you are a CEO and you have to close down a studio that you purchased, let's say, less than 5 years ago, you've already closed it down. You should have to pay a financial penalty of some amount of, having taken that stable company and gone, oh, you just don't have jobs anymore because I want money.
Yeah, and also, they shouldn't be able to get bonuses because clearly if they're having to sell off these businesses, it means that, they've been making poor decisions.
Well enough,
They've been making poor decisions, or that the company isn't doing well enough. And, absolutely, I think from there, that should show that they have not, in fact, earned that bonus.
Exactly. Bonuses should be, actual bonuses for work well done if they're going to exist at all, not, a thing that you all get no matter how many people's lives you ruined this year.
Yeah, but, or indeed because you ruined people's lives, and maybe that was the point, because you're fucking evil.
Fucking capitalism.
Fucking capitalism. Fancy hug, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good hug, mate. Good hug.
Good hug.
Right, I think I'm going to have a little lie down.
Oh, sounds lovely.
Nice.
So, Laura,
Yes?
you do things on the internet, and people will probably like to find those things and find out more about the things that you do. Where do?
You can find me in the stuff that I do at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. Laura K. Buzz on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Laura K. Buzz. Basically all of the places. What have I got going up at the moment that people can actually see? There will be a sort of 1.5 episode of Control Alt Access going up this week that is about, well, it was recorded live from GA Conf, talking about day one of GA Conf and all the panels from that. So that'll be up. There is an accessibility episode about audio descriptions in interactive versus non-interactive moments in video games and what needs to happen there. Those are the big ones this week, I think. What about you? Where are you at on the internet?
Well, I don't have your unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linkter.ee/Janiac, Janeiac. You can find all the things I've written and the music I've made and the t-shirts I've designed and all that good stuff. And you can find my link to help support me at patreon.com/StoneToMonkeyRadio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify all of the extra hours, and I've got back to regularly scheduling Queer and Pleasant Stranger skit-episodes, so if you have recently got into this show and so you think, many of those episodes are circumstantial, but boy, I'd love to hear just the jokes. Well, you can. We put out skit-episodes. It's just the skits from old episodes. I think we're up to like episode 120 at this point. So if you want 120 episodes of skits, there is a lovely playlist available on SoundCloud and all the other places that SoundCloud feeds it out to from there. But that's it for me, pretty much. So, Laura, will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.